All right, we have another day of another hour of celebration here with the Sacred Hearts Rising Courage Under Fire book premiere book launch, and we are celebrating because this is such an accomplishment, and it is the fourth in the series and the final in the series. So we are really happy to have all of you here. And Brenda, we're celebrating you and bringing this book to the world.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just pretty awesome. All of you, Thyra, Jennifer, Michele, and if Stephanie can join us, we're in the full circle in the section of this book as well. So Brenda had done some pretty cool stuff with this book, is to show how far you've come. She shared your first stories in this book series, and then the stories that show where you are, showcasing where you are now. Michele, what was the name of your chapter? I have the other.
So my original chapter was called You Are Enough, and my revisit is More Than Enough.
More Than Enough. How beautiful. How has this participating in this book series changed your life?
When I first shared my story at a mic, I thought that that's kind of where that story would end. And when the opportunity came to be in book one, I really jumped at that because I knew that there was such an importance, partially for my own healing, and also that if I wanted to move forward, I needed to really take my life experiences and lessons and use that to serve others. And the healing journey for me was significant in putting those words down to paper and really sitting with those words as I wrote and revisited the times of my life experiences, but doing it from a place that was no longer in the immediate, because I'd already started the healing journey at that point even. But after writing the words and seeing it in writing, there's like an undescribable release that comes. Now, my life experiences never change, but how I see them and how I respond to them and how they impact me significantly changes. And I find that writing this story allowed me to even more openly talk about my life experiences and make connections with a lot of people that either, like in my case, it was around suicide. And so those conversations for people who are struggling or lost others to suicide. So it's been a huge positive impact. And then the opportunity to revisit everything and see where I'm at now, like.
And wow, how far you've come, huh?
How far I've come. It's undescribable. And I'm so grateful to Brenda and everyone else that has been involved in this project from day one. And this has become a sisterhood. And we walk together through all of our experiences now, and we walk together in strength and power. And it's personal healing, and it's also doing empowerment to others through our experiences.
How beautiful. You know, that just the mere act of putting pen to paper can just totally transform. And then when you stand up and it releases to the world in the form of a book, and you're speaking on stages, wow. There's a certain deep inner growth that happens as a result of that. But just knowing too, what a difference that you can make in the lives of somebody else, even if it's just one person, it's so worth it.
Yeah. And what I recognized was, because I lost a friend to suicide during this whole process. And in fact, the Sacred Heart Summit, the first one, I shared on stage what that process was like, because you kind of do this upward, because I'm like, oh, I'm releasing my story. And then I lost this friend to suicide, and how I had to recircle back and figure that out and navigate that. And I think what you said there, Becky, about the change, though I lost my friend, her choices were her own to make. Mm-hmm. My choice was to simply love her without judgment and just honor her for the choices that she made. And I recognized that I had saved a life, and it was mine.
Yeah. Wow, how powerful is that? And yes, coming to that realization that it is their choice, and to view it with non-judgment beats the alternative, because
Absolutely.
we can truly suffer through that journey.
Yeah. And walking either side of the equation, it's all in the perspectives. And so for me, I was like, well, I understand all of this. And how did I not know to be there for her? And how did I not know how to help her? Because this is my own experience. And I really struggled. But I did, figure out that piece. And I think of Aggie often. And I just love her because she simply existed and she was a part of our lives for a time. And so it's honoring and respecting her for sure. And it's a reminder. And it's a reminder for me in my own state where, my brain sometimes goes off in different tangents or go back to the past. It's a reminder to come collect myself again and pick myself up and keep moving forward. And I think that's another important part of this book series, is that there's a level of accountability there as well. I've shared my story, and so I need to be accountable to the decisions I make moving forward. And so I'm very grateful to Brenda for that as well, because we're not perfect and every day is ups and downs. But when I remember the striving for the ups because of Brenda and her vision, it's made a huge difference.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Brenda has made a huge impact in the world in so many ways. And, the differences in every story, there's no two stories that is exactly alike. There's diversity in these stories that she has seen wise to bring into the world. And each one of them is going to touch a life, because in conversation with people, there's many people that have faced that decision of whether, am I going to stay or am I going to go, and sometimes when you're in a dark place, that just seems like the right choice, but it isn't, well, at least it isn't for those of us that are still here, it's beautifthyra. And thank you. Yes. Beautiful. I'm happy.
Thank you,
here.
Becky. Thanks.
Thyra, how about for you? Tell us about, I know you've done the full circle. You're in this book is sharing the full circle. Where did it all begin with you?
It's been quite a journey with Brenda and we were living in Salt Spring Island. We were there for a year to write, and Brenda called me up and said, hey, I got this project and would you like to join? And I thought, everything inside of me said, yeah, I got to join, but I had no idea what it was that I was going to write about. And when I started to write, and when the story started to kind of unfurl, it was like, no, I don't want to do this. It was like pulling teeth to try to get this story out. My story was called Opening the Invisible Drawer. And it was about an experience that I had as a child that was quite horrific. And I had blocked it. And I knew that I had at least one repressed memory left inside of there. But when I thought I was going to write about that, it was like, oh, forget it. Forget it. I'm not doing it. and the story just kind of came out. And I knew that I'd already said yes to Brenda, so I wasn't going to, back out of it. And I knew I had to write the story. So I started writing, and the repressed memory just unfurled in front of me like a movie. And so as I was writing, I went right back into where I was when I was 8 years old and all of that happened. And I've just got to kind of mirror you, Michele, where there's a healing that happens in writing. And I thank you, Brenda, because I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for you.
I know. I had to kick and scream pulling you.
It was just painful, but it was so important. It was such an important part of the journey to write it down, look at it, think about it, remember it, feel it, right? Try to put it away again, bring it back out again. It was such a process. You know, my partner, oh God, love Albert, because he got to put up with me through all of that. And it took a while, like it took a while to kind of get back in. I remember that first book kind of came out, I was like, yeah, I'm not promoting this. And I'm sorry, Brenda, I love you. And I wanted to promote, I was like, nah, I don't want anybody to kind of, no, right? And the
I don't want my name on it at all.
Forget it. Like, I don't even want anybody to read that. Like it was still so sore and fresh, right? Because even though it happened when I was 8 years old, it was right here. So it took me a little while. I don't think I came to the first summit, but I think I came to the second summit.
Took you a couple years.
It did. It really did. It was like, I don't know why I did that. I was really resistant. And then, you know, by the time the second summit kind of came, it was like, yeah, you know, I can do this. I had never walked on stage. I had never talked and spoke in front of people. I was scared to death. I got up on the stage and was just like, oh! It was so crazy. But I did it. And I knew at that point that my life, I had to embrace it. My life was changing. Everything was different. And from that point, so when was that, Brenda? That would have been about 2018, or was it 19?
Yeah, somewhere around 18, 19. Yeah, it's been, the first summit was 17.
So it would have been about 18 probably.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
From 2018, now I have somewhere around 300 videos that I've got in my courses and just in my website and just in the stuff that I do and how I help people. But honestly, before that day, before stepping on stage and just really claiming it and saying, you know what, I don't care if I shake through this, I'm doing it. Before then, I had nothing, zero. So thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Wow. So when somebody picks up this book and they open it and read your first story to the drawer revisited, you know, opening that drawer be visited, what do you hope they walk away with?
That is such a good question. I hope, you know, the biggest thing that I want to say here, and it may not even be about my story, but I think the biggest thing is everybody's got a story. And so whatever your story is that is kind of holding you back and stopping you from being your great self, whatever that is, writing might be a good process. And actually not just writing it and putting it in a journal, but writing it and putting it out to, you know, bestseller status, right? Like that whole thing was just so overwhelming for me for the first year, right? But it was so important. And you know, whatever it is that we've gone through, it's time to bring it out and not let it stop us from being our greatest selves. That's I don't know whether they'll get it from my story, but I hope that they get it from just this process, because that's important.
This process is very powerful because it says we collectively raise our voices and stand up in our own authenticity and our own vulnerability and use the power of story to transform lives. That's where all the difference is. And what's beautiful about this is now there's a beautiful sisterhood that goes along with it. And, you know, to think of that growth that comes from knowing that you're not alone and that there's full support. There is good support. You can tap into any one of these sisters in this book and know that they've got your back. You know, we've walked a journey. We all have a story, and we're not doing this story alone. Beautiful. So how about for you, Jennifer? Your story, Don't Quit Before the Miracle Happens.
Yeah, so that was the second story I wrote. I wrote in book 2, and it was called, my chapter was called, "And Then God Stepped In." So I begin my chapter with introducing myself as an addict in recovery. So my journey for myself, I ended up in a rehab facility in 2012, and my life had to completely change. And one of the things I was taught that I really didn't realize I was doing when I got there was I was keeping secrets. I was keeping secrets that I was going to the grave with, and nobody else was going to know those secrets. And what I didn't know, that those secrets were killing my spirit and killing me inside. And so when I had the opportunity, I had Brenda email me, and I've been practicing a path of spiritual growth for a number of years. And I have over time learned what a loving higher power was. And when I grew up, it wasn't so much like that. You know, the God of my understanding when I grew up was punishing, and there was fear there. And it wasn't working for me. I disowned God long time ago. I blamed God for a lot of things going on in my life. And I was sitting in pity and victim, you know, for some time. And when I got into recovery and therapy and started working in a 12-step program, doing a step 4, which is an inventory of myself and having a good hard look at what's happened and what I've gone through, and regret and remorse. And I didn't want to, when Brenda messaged me, I didn't know why this opportunity had come into my lap. And I prayed about it, meditated about it, and I got answers I didn't like. I didn't like them. And I was told, I want you to write about this one secret. And I'm like, oh my God, not doing that. Oh my God, I'm not doing that. Okay, so what else you got for me? What else can I do? And I kept getting, this is why you're here. And I had written about what I'd written about in my first chapter in a step 4, and I'd shared it in a step 5 with a pastor in a recovery center and my sponsor. That was it. So the shame that came along with that, when that book came out, I remember going, I'm exposed. I felt raw. I wondered what people that loved me would think of me. And I worried that people who loved me would love me less.
Yeah.
And what I learned through the journey was that they loved me that much more. And mirror, you know, both you brave women that wrote, well, Brenda, all of us, you know, for being vulnerable and sharing deep pieces of me and those secrets that I keep in my head and what my head likes to tell me sometimes. I needed to be able to get to a place that I felt safe to do that, because my whole life that I remember, abusive relationships. I was married to a man that continued to tell me my feelings were wrong. I wasn't validated, and you know, he was better than, I was less than, that I wasn't worthy. And that was huge for me. That I definitely had a little bit of fear for a number of months after that first book came out. So Thyra, I totally related to you. I really don't want to tell people to get the book, because oh my God, that they're going to see me.
Yeah.
And I've learned through this journey, those who are meant to be women in my life will be women in my life. People that are meant to go are meant to go. And when I was given the opportunity to write in book 4, I moved forward through that journey, and with all of the mental health that happens with our youth and our young kids today, that's what I wanted to write about. I have a now a 22-year-old son that, was diagnosed with severe mental health issues. And at the time, even though it wasn't that long ago, we're still talking 20 years ago, this stuff wasn't as much in the forefront as it is today.
Right.
And I felt very alone in it. And it wasn't until I got sharing vulnerably and honestly with women who had been through what I had been through, did I not feel so alone.
Wow, how powerful your story.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
Honored.
I feel I'm honored to be a part of this beautiful creation that Brenda has given to us and so many other men and women who have read these stories of courage, because that's what it is. Thank you.
It is truly, you defined it very, very well in your expression. Wow. Because, we all think nobody else has that problem. And we may see others that may have somewhat of the same problem, but yours is always something that you don't want anybody to know, and maybe a little worse than theirs. And we find out it's not. One thing that is common is humanity, and we all have a story. There's not one of us can get through this life without a story. And it's what we do about those stories. And look at how you shine. Look how all of you shine right now as a result of stepping into who you truly are, And yes, it's a journey. And yes, we have, but that doesn't mean that each time we go a little bit down, we don't go all the way down. But it's better because we've learned that we do have support. We learned that we're not alone. We learned through taking the time to write and taking the time to let it go, release to the world. Look at where each one of us are today as a result. Amazing. Totally amazing. What a celebration, Brenda. Look at you.
Well, it has,
So grateful.
yes, it has been a journey of lots of sorts. A lot of, as Thyra kicking and screaming, knowing that, she had to share her story, and Jennifer, asking for the guidance in sharing her story, and being there and being supportive, and Michele through such a devastating time. Suicide is not something that people want to talk about, and having Jennifer or Michele talk about it really brought that to the forefront for a lot of people. So, we all have stories, and we all share different parts of us. It's what we do with after we share those parts of us that we live with. And the fact that we can look at our story and say, you know what, I can move past this. This is so back there. This is so in the past. And look what I can do now. I finally got rid of the Klingons. I finally got rid of the baggage that was dragging me down. And now I can step forward into life and shine. And nobody shares their story and thinks that it's all going to be rosy. Because when you're bringing out your vulnerability, it is never rosy. But as Jennifer eloquently said, those that are your friends are going to be your friends, and you will gain more. And it's almost like it's a culling effect. You're culling your background, and you're culling things that you don't need in your life in order for you to move forward into the life that you want. And it's a very empowering thing. I'm proud of all of the ladies that have took the journey, whether they wanted to or not.
Well, the healing that takes place is really amazing. It's not just our healing. It's the healing that maybe you telling your story can bring. I know I wrote my first book called The Woman I Love, and even men would write and say, wow, thank you. I could never understand my mother. I could never understand, whatever was transpiring. And you've transformed my life because now I can know how to support her,
Yeah.
And
it's the healing
amazing.
of the collective. Yeah,
Yes.
It's the healing of the collective. And that's just it. You're not only healing yourself, You're healing that unknown person that is across the room that you have never met before. And you may never meet, but that person certainly knows of your story and has gained courage and wisdom from your story. And that is, I think, the most empowering thing that we can give another living soul is empowerment.
Beautiful. Wow. What a wonderful bunch of ladies we are. Well, just to think of the impact that this has already, and this next book in the series with the full circle will bring to so many, because of the little things that we can do. They're also big for us, but in the overall scheme of life, they may feel like little drops in the bucket, but it's all those drops in the bucket that fill it up to overflowing and make the difference in this world. What a blessed time we're living. Truly
it is truly a blessed time. Yeah.
So we need to conclude this one because we have our next interview coming up with Stephanie. And thank you, ladies, each one of you, from all of our hearts, that you could be here and share and shine in the way that you do. Blessings.
Thank you
you,
so
lady.
much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.